What's going on, soul siblings? This is yours truly, the James Cardoza, owner, operator, creator of Patrick's, aka Ambassador Light, back at it again, reading from the Bible and the Daily Stoic. So today's read was from Luke 9:28 through 9:45. My intention was to just choose a few verses, but it's not that long, and I feel like they're all pretty valuable. So, about 8 days later, Jesus took Peter, John, and James up on a mountain to pray. And as he was praying, the appearance of his face was transformed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly 2 men, Moses and Elijah, appeared and began talking with Jesus. They were glorious to see, and they were speaking about his exodus from this world, which was about to be fulfilled in Jerusalem. Peter and the others had fallen asleep. When they woke up, they saw Jesus' glory and the 2 men standing with him. So in the description here, 9:29 and 30, Jesus took Peter and James and John to the top of the mountain to show them who he really was, not merely a great prophet, but God's own son. Moses, representing the law, and Elijah, representing the prophets, appeared with Jesus. Then God's voice singled out Jesus as the long-awaited Messiah who possessed divine authority. Jesus would fulfill both the law and the prophets. 9:33. As Moses and Elijah were starting to leave, Peter, not even knowing what he was saying, blurted out, Master, it's wonderful for us to be here. Let's make 3 shelters as memorials, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. When Peter suggested making the 3 shelters, he may have been thinking of the Festival of Shelters, where shelters were set up to commemorate the Exodus, or God's deliverance of the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. Peter wanted to keep Moses and Elijah with them, but this was not what God wanted. Peter desired to build memorials for Jesus. Moses and Elijah may also show his understanding that real faith is built on 3 cornerstones: the law, the prophets, and Jesus. But Peter grew in his understanding, and eventually he would write of Jesus as the cornerstone. 34. But even as he was saying, this is a cloud overshadowed them, and terror gripped them as the cloud covered them. Then a voice from the cloud said, This is my Son, my chosen one. Listen to him. As God's Son, Jesus has God's power and authority. Thus, his words should be our final authority. If a person's teaching is true, it will agree with Jesus' teachings. Don't be hasty to seek advice and guidance from merely human sources and thereby neglect Christ's message. Test everything you hear against Jesus' words, and you will not be led astray. If we believe he is God's Son, then he surely will want to do what he says. When the voice finished, Jesus was there alone. They didn't tell anyone at the time what they had seen. The next day after they had come down the mountain, a large crowd met Jesus. A man in the crowd called out to him, Teacher, I beg you to look at my son, my only child. An evil spirit keeps seizing him, making him scream. It throws him into new convulsions so that he foams at the mouth. It batters him and hardly ever leaves him alone. I begged your disciples to cast out the spirit, but they couldn't do it. Jesus said, You faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you and put up with you? Then he said to the man, Bring your son here. As the boy came forward, the demon knocked him to the ground and threw him into a violent convulsion. But Jesus rebuked the evil spirit and healed the boy. Then he gave him back to his father. Gripped the people as they saw this majestic display of God's power. 9:40. Why couldn't the disciples cast out the evil spirits? For a possible answer, see note on Mark 9:18. While everyone was marveling at everything he was doing, Jesus said to his disciples, "Listen to me and remember what I say. The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of his enemies." But they didn't know what he meant. Its significance was hidden from them so they could understand it, and they were afraid to ask him about it. Then his disciples began arguing about which of them was the greatest. Okay. In description of 9:45 and 46, the disciples didn't understand Jesus' words about his death. They still thought of Jesus as only an earthly king, and they were concerned about their place in the kingdom he would set up. So they ignored Jesus' words about his death and began arguing about who would be the greatest. Those are today's words from Luke 28 through 45. From the Daily Stoic, July 23rd, which is very interesting because it just said in, it just said, in 9:35, Jesus has the final authority, so be careful of anything humanly. So, maybe Stoicism isn't necessarily the answer, but I've committed to reading it for a year, and also the Bible. So at the end of the day, it did bring me to reading the Bible. July 23rd. Receive honor and slights exactly the same way. Receive without pride. Let go without attachment. Marcus Aurelius. In the midst of the breakdown of the Roman Republic during the civil war between Pompey and Caesar, Pompey made the decision to give control of the military fleet to Cato. It was a massive honor and hugely powerful position. But then a few days later, responding to the protests of his jealous inner circle, Pompey reversed his decision and took the command away. It could have been seen as an enormous public humiliation to be given a promotion and then having taken it away. The record shows that Cato's reaction was basically nothing. He responded to the honor and the dishonor the same way, with indifference and acceptance. He certainly didn't let it affect his support for the cause. In fact, after the snub, he worked to rally the soldiers before battle with inspirational speeches. The very men who should have been under his command, that's what Marcus is saying. Do not take the slight of day personally, or the exciting rewards and recognitions either, especially when duty has assigned you an important cause. Trivial details like the rise and fall of your position say nothing about you as a person, only your behavior, as Cato's did. Powerful. So basically, it all comes down to how you respond. Your character will be defined not on what happens around you or to you, but how you respond to things around you and to you. So that being said, my friends, as always, take care, God bless, and remember to love you.